Hi, everyone. The transition to a new, and we might even call it ancient, organic, original, ascended, higher, deeper, processing and metabolizing and utilizing of energy for nourishment and sustenance of life requires for us, especially, a change in your fundamental belief around food and energy. Now, I would first like to spend a few minutes reflecting on and considering belief systems, belief structures, and what a change in belief requires. We do not exist in a pre-given objective world or reality. There is an objective component to it. For example, if you had a friend next to you and you said, "Hey, look over there at that bird. Look over there at that tree. Listen, do you hear that music?" The friend, if they have appropriate hearing capacity for that particular sound, or visual capacity for that particular bird or tree, will look and confirm, yes, I see the bird, I see the tree, I hear the sound. That's an objectively shared experience between two relative finite beings. Subjectively, however, the experience of the bird, the tree, the music, and not just the experience, but also the interpretation, the emotions, the meaning elicited from seeing the bird or the tree or hearing the sound is highly, 100% unique. What subjective means points to the fact that it's original or specific to the subject doing the observing or the experiencing or the seeing or the hearing. So say the tree reminds your friend of childhood playtime, and there's a positive or even nostalgic experience. But for you, you fell out of a tree as a kid. And so there's fear in your memory and association with the tree. Or maybe the bird for your friend brings a memory of squawking parrots that were in the house as a child, and it's a bit annoying. Or for you, it reminds you of being at the beach, where there were peaceful sounds of seagulls. Same with music, obviously, because there's many different kinds of music. You will associate subjectively, even if you can agree objectively on what it sounds like, what kind of music, what genre it is. The experience, the pleasure, or the not pleasure, or what state of mind is brought about by the music is highly specific. And when you have experiences, particularly that are what I call traumatic or dramatic, not just neutral, in other words, they come with a charge of some kind, and a samskaric imprint in your personal Akashic record memory bank, then a belief is created. Simple as that. An experience with a charge roots in a belief in your subjective mind that then gets assumed, unless you know how to deconstruct it, which is what I'm dipping you into right now. The assumption is that that's the way things are objectively. That's how everybody sees the world. Now, there are, of course, certain categories of things that have a broadly shared subjective experience, interpretation, meaning, and belief. But that still doesn't mean that that's the way it is universally across the board, objectively, for everyone to have ever experienced that thing. So once that belief is in there, because you fell out of a tree, or because your parents had cages full of squawking birds, or because you loved going to the beach, or certain music reminds you of a concert, or reminds you of your parents, or elicits a creative spark in you. If you're a musician, it's not always just childhood stuff. Don't worry. This is not just Freudian association in that way, but association in whatever way. Why a particular otherwise neutral event reminds you of something, and not only reminds you of it, but elicits an emotion, a charge, a feeling, a thought, a story, and then a belief. This is happening because this is the way it is. This is the way it is, therefore this is happening. And the more that happens, the more the belief gets embedded and reinforced every time it happens again. Suffice it to say also, the more deeply rooted the belief is, then the more frequently or at least intensely the reinforcement of it will occur. And some of these beliefs, of course, are themselves harmless. I'm definitely not asking you, nor should I ask you, to reprogram every single belief that you have. One thing that I am inviting you to do is to simply look at why you see and experience the world that you do in the way that you do, what belief it comes from, why the belief got planted there, if it's okay to stay, if it needs to be that way, if it can be shifted, if it can be seen a different way, if it's causing trouble and wreaking havoc in your life. Is it universal for all people, all dimensions, all times, all situations? The answer is usually no. And if it's no, that means it's malleable. The way we see the world, and not just visually, but perceive, the way we perceive the world creates our beliefs about the world, and vice versa. What we believe about the world will dictate how we perceive and interact with the world. And the world, I mean other people, situations, day-to-day life, ourself, God, religion, politics, diet, food, nutrition, etc. That kind of templated structure is in and of itself a miracle. The fact that that happens, the fact that belief systems and belief structures are highly unique and individualized, which in and of itself points to something we won't go too far in right now, but is a part of the greater work that I teach, which is you are the primary subjective, big S, awareness, big A, of the entire manifest world. You are the only one aware of anything. Everything arising, occurring, happening, is doing so only in your awareness. And there is nothing arising, occurring, happening outside of your awareness. Therefore, the subjective nature of meaning and interpretation and experience of an objective object or event or person or situation points even more to the primacy of awareness, you as the subject, and all other relative subjects actually existing themselves as objects in your primarily subjective awareness. That is the source, or at least one with the source of all things, including this amazing stray hair there. Now, the understanding the consideration of belief system creating your reality and reality reinforcing the belief system has become quite popularized these days in particularly the New Age kind of spiritual world. In my opinion, there's a lot more that's necessary and important to dig into, which again is a part of the larger Kalyana way method that I teach, and not very relevant to spend much time on right now. To learn how to dig in, deconstruct, decondition, recondition belief systems, belief structures that need to change. And again, if it's not universal, all times, all people, all dimensions, all situations, then it's malleable. But where, in my opinion, the New Age law of attraction, the book The Secret, practice of manifesting what you want in life, in my opinion, this is very often coming from an egoic place, for one, where that thing you're trying to manifest, you don't even know why you're wanting it. So a lot of these teachers will teach, think of the best life you want to have. What kind of partner you want, what kind of car you want, what kind of career you want. And whatever their techniques are that they teach in order for you to get that thing. Not only is that very materialistically based, getting things, but it's often coming from a place that's not pure. It's coming from a place of deficiency. It's coming from a place of desire and suffering if you don't get it. So it produces a lot of strain, a lot of force, a lot of effort. And actually, the results do often come. Poof, you found that partner. Poof, you found that career. Poof, you found whatever it is, and you celebrate and are amazed. Wow, it worked. The magic formula worked. But then with that thing comes the baggage and the strings that were attached to the unresolved ego place that it was coming from to begin with. On the other hand, often when these systems and teachers teach you to just change your belief through some affirmation practice, like say you're wanting to manifest money, which again most likely is coming from an ego place. But then secondly, it's not an accurate understanding of true abundance. Actually wanting to manifest money, a finite resource, rather than unlimited abundance from the source itself. And remember some of these things when we get into the food, energy, nourishment, breatharian conversation. True abundance versus coming from deficiency and lack. Because trying to manifest money when you've not yet done the deconstruction work or the shadow work or the ego work or even the work around fear. A lot of these things that you're wanting to manifest, partner, career, money, look at it, think about it, is coming from a fear of being without or a fear of not getting that thing. Not trust at all. Not true and deep communion with life, with God, with the abundant resources of this hologram that we live in. So, a lot of these practitioners that try this actually either they poof and there it is, but it comes with all the strings attached that they weren't looking at, a lot of karmic repercussions, or it doesn't work at all and they wonder why. I'm doing the formula, I'm doing it right, I'm taping up the affirmations on my mirror, I'm saying it over and over again, I am confident, I am manifesting my best life, I am happy, I am rich. Say it is so. Say it as though you already have it. I've heard it all. Rather than seeing truly, you already are abundant, you already have what you need, and the desire for money was coming from a belief that you don't have what you need, then that is what the hologram will reflect back to you. You can't trick God. What will be seen is the fear. And that's what will be reflected back. What will be seen is the deficiency mindset. And a lot of teachers will even go after that deficiency mindset to try and enforce affirmations on top of that without really having a genuine change in belief. I am abundant. I'm not deficient. Don't come from a deficiency mindset. And that in and of itself becomes a subpersonality. Becomes itself a pattern. So the belief deep down, the root belief, is what the hologram sees and will reflect back to you, regardless of what you're trying to pile on top. Because that's coming from denial and ignorance, ignorance. So, what I teach is much more, again, organic, natural, and permanent, lasting. You have to deconstruct your belief systems so that then a more natural, effortless, new belief. Because I'm not saying get rid of all belief. That's impossible while we're still here in these forms. Again, however you're experiencing reality will then create a belief. The belief will then manifest reality to happen in a certain way that then reflects back and reinforces it. Loop-de-loop-de-loop, on and on we go. I'm just saying, look at the source of the belief, look at how it got there, look at what it's causing, ask if it's universal, see if it needs to be there. Is it positive? Is it neutral? Is it negative? How malleable is it? And then with the other work that I teach, again, not to go into it here, you can literally uproot that and allow a new way of seeing, being, and believing to come spontaneously without you trying, which then also requires a deep knowing, trusting, and understanding of God or the benevolence of the hologram, where you don't have to try anymore to even know what you want. Because suffice it to say, at the beginning, before you've done your deep shadow and ego work, you don't know what you want. It's most likely coming from projection or lack of understanding. So all of that needs to be cleaned up. It goes without saying that food and our belief around food is one of the most deeply and severely rooted patterns and programs and conditionings that we have. Not only because, as I said in the intro and invite video, we have in fact collectively, objectively, been lied to, but subjectively, you do not have to buy that lie. You do have a choice. Even if freedom from the lie is the result, it still will come with a process of unwinding. It won't happen all at once, because literally since the womb, that's the way it's been. We are, as a human race, in a transition period between the third dimension and, some say fourth, some say fifth, who knows, another higher dimension, where for a while, that third dimensional system of ingesting physical food and digesting it in the physical third dimensional stomach, and then processing it and utilizing it, and then burning calories like burning fuel, causes another deficit, which you then need to replenish, that was in fact necessary, important, a part of our evolutionary process. It's not a bad thing. However, it's quickly being outdated as we're evolving, as we're ascending, as we're upgrading our DNA and our overall system. So that in of itself was not the lie. It's just that system that does in fact rely on deficiency and replenishment. And we might say limited resources, which is why we are so concerned right now with rainforests and farmland and the food industry and organic versus conventional and pesticides and global warming and our ecosystem, our environment. It has a lot to do with food and running out. See how that is a part of, but it's such an unquestioned part of, because we think that's just the way it is. Belief system in lack, in deficiency. It's like a bottom of the barrel root chakra issue of survival. Because if I don't have this food and I'm relying on not only the rest of the world or California where a lot of the food is grown, but also even if you are self-sufficient on your off-grid compound with organic gardens, you're reliant on the weather, the climate, bugs and mice and deer and other animals not eating it. And you're reliant on, as what happened in the book of Genesis in the Garden of Eden, where one of the quote-unquote curses was, you will now eat by the sweat of your brow. You now have to work hard just to get energy to replenish the energy spent working hard to get the food, to get the energy to replenish the energy you spent working hard to get the food. Do you see? And that's not even just in the world of gardening and having your own food in your backyard. That's also translated into going to a 9-to-5 job or whatever you need to do for money to buy the food to replenish the energy that you spent working in order to make the money to buy the food, to replenish the energy you spent to make the money to buy the food. You see? And it's so embedded that that's the way things are, and that's the way it's always been, and that's the way it has to be. We never consider another option. So that third dimensional way of ingesting and processing and digesting and utilizing energy is not wrong. It's just being outdated as we ascend. And the elite powers that be have in fact hijacked or used that as a host site or piggybacked or capitalized on, quite literally, that system for its agenda, for its darkness, for its lies, for its poison. It has been used against us, a very natural, albeit quickly becoming outdated, it is a very natural, organic, human way to metabolize energy and nourishment for sustenance of life. There's nothing wrong with that. But it has been used against us in many, many, many ways, more than the ones I just listed. So consider all of the lower chakras or centers of our experience. These kind of archetypal nexuses, not to be confused with nexus, not necessarily. Have kind of a basic functionality as well as the way humans have used them also for enjoyment or entertainment, which, again, in and of themselves is not a problem. But we can get into at another time when that becomes a problem, and it's not very difficult to see. You already know that. So, as an example, just like sex, which is a lower chakra function, the basic purpose of sex is procreation. And we've turned it into pleasure and entertainment as well. That also, in its industry, in its purity, has been used against us, has been weaponized against us. Same as sleep. I'm just using these as examples. Sleep, which is deeply intertwined with food. We can talk about that another time. Sleep, basic purpose, rest. Restoration. Recharging. And we've also turned it into enjoyment. Most people love to sleep. Most people love to take naps. And that's all great. That's all beautiful. But what I'm pointing to is these basic functions that we share with, we'll say, animals, but most likely all of life in some way or another. We share with the animals food, sex, sleep. Each one of them has a basic purpose or function for us and an entertainment or enjoyment or pleasureful function. So, the basic purpose or function of food without the entertainment part. Again, we'll talk about that later as well. Don't worry. If you're watching this, of course, you're already interested in this process. But if you're worried at all, I'm not trying to take the fun away from things. In fact, feasting has always been part and parcel along with, hand in hand with fasting. That also, unfortunately, gluttonously has become a problem. Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday, was originally a day to celebrate and to be festive and to be full of life and to eat and to feast before going into the next 40 days of fasting in preparation for the acknowledgement, the observance, that's the word, the observance of Jesus's trial, ordeal, death, and then feasting again on Resurrection Day. And look what Mardi Gras has turned into. Good Lord. That's not the original intention. However, feasting, celebrating, being full and filled up with life, vitality, vibrancy, before emptying, before filling again, this is the ebb and flow. This is the beauty of life. Too much neglect, too much going without, too much emptying has its own consequences. But currently in our world, in our culture, in our society, we are obsessed with the opposite. Because it's coming from a place of deficiency. It's trying to fill a void that we've never even allowed time to be there, to be filled by something deeper, more permanent, more lasting. But when you just fill up and 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 fill up, you see? Of course, not just food, but with all the things that we fill up with, then the enjoyment goes away, the pure enjoyment. You might say, but I love to do this. Social media, video games, eating dinner, whatever it is. I love it. But when you don't go with periods without it, the pure enjoyment of it diminishes, but also you become a slave to it because your system expects it. And you have a mild crisis if you don't have it or if you don't do it. So again, I'm not taking your fun away. I'm actually wanting to re-imbue you, reorient, reset your relationship with the beauty of life without the subjective drama and pleasure-pain duality, the suffering that inherently comes with the desire. So that you can truly enjoy food, you can truly enjoy everything that we were truly meant to enjoy in its pure essence, without the baggage. So, it is true, universally true, I would say, that we need, in order to live, energy. The assumption, the untruth, the not universal, is that it has to come from food, physical food, in that standard way of ingesting, digesting, and processing. And then once you've bought into that belief, then all the other beliefs, and yes, lies, not all of them are lies, but again, it's quite murky. But then all the other beliefs and some lies come along with that belief that energy comes from food and has to come from food, or quote unquote calories. And by food, I actually don't only mean what you have to chew. I mean liquid as well. For other conversations, I may differentiate if we're talking about eating, chewing versus juicing or smoothies or broth or water. But for now, it's all in the same category of food for nourishment. And the subsequent beliefs, once you buy into that one, along with some lies, include what kind of food, all the different diets as options, how many calories per day, calorie input, calorie output, calorie deficit, ketosis, how to lose weight, how to get energy, when to eat, what time of day to eat, what time of day not to eat after, caffeine, sleeping pills, again, how it's very entangled with sleep. But if you're watching this, you must at least somewhere in there already know or already believe or want to believe that you do not need food for energy. I have not yet disproven the truth or the belief that we need energy, but what I have disproven and reprogrammed is where and how to get the energy. And where and how to get the energy, from my perspective, what I teach is actually from a place of unending, limitless abundance, where it never runs out. But it's a question of technique, clearing out the obstacles to it, and how to resource it. Which in and of itself is not so different from resourcing from a garden or resourcing from the grocery store. But that system, again, uses your hard work, the sweat of your brow, as a side note, Christy, my wife, actually had a brilliant insight that there's a connection between Adam and Eve eating the apple and of course there's been a lot of interpretation and possible metaphor for what that means, and that's all good too, because guess what? That's another example of subjective meaning. Not just whatever you want it to mean, but through research and through really deeply looking into it, there's lots of different things that the Adam and Eve story, or the story of the fall, or what the apple was, and the apple in and of itself actually wasn't even what it said in the Bible. It was just the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And there's been a lot of conjecture of what the actual fruit was. Was it literal? Was it metaphor? Etc. So that's a beautiful thing to get into also. So I'm not saying it only meant this thing. But Christy pointed to the fact that, all of this turmoil came from eating. And the whole list of curses that came. One of which being animosity with the serpent, Yeah. The reptile, one of which was painful childbirth, one of which was eating only from the sweat of your brow, from working. So again, even if we figure out how to have the most self-sustaining alternative energy sources in the exterior, because interior-exterior is another component of this that I want to bring about, the exterior system of replenishing resources through free energy, farming, sustainable agriculture, all of that conversation, wonderful. It's still in the third dimensional depletion, replenishment, cause and effect cycle, which in and of itself, even if you deeply trust, in and of itself can elicit and trigger and come from a place of fear, of going without. What if the machines break down? What if it doesn't rain? And then of course there are weather control machines and all of that. But what I'm most concerned with because it's true organic energy, it's true free energy, it's true limitless resource, it's true abundance. It actually doesn't cost you anything, which is why it could turn the whole system on its head if more and more and more people do this. So it's the whole interior version of give someone a fish and they can eat for a day, teach someone to fish and they can eat for a lifetime. So I'm teaching you to harvest interiorly. Now, during this course, well, before I go there, I want to finish what I was saying about belief. It's either already changed for you, or you want it to change, or you see the possibility of it changing. The belief that you have to get energy from this other paradigm. But, as I started this video saying, if trying to rewire that belief is coming from a deficient place or a fearful place or an ego place, or even if the reason for doing this is only so you can save money, I'd say that's not necessarily bad, but that also can be rooted in fear and lack and deficiency. So it needs to be an entire overhaul. Let all of those things come as natural byproducts. But once you see that you don't need food in that way, once you see the money you can save, once you see the abundance that's really here, once you see the life and feasting and resourcefulness and limitless energy and vitality that comes, then the belief system changes. Because, in fact, if you believe you will die of starvation, you can. If you believe you will die without water, you will. If you believe what we've all been programmed since we were kids, I don't even know the exact number of days, but I think it's like 3 days without water, you'll die. We'll talk about that later, but I've already easily proven that wrong. It's pretty astonishing, actually. It's pretty amazing when a belief system you've been told your entire life and you prove it wrong like that. Or if you can just find one exception where it's not true, it's like, wait a minute, there's something else going on here. There's a hole in that story. else have I been wrong about? So, the way is not, okay, I want to believe that I can survive on this other energy source, but deep down, you're not so sure about it. Then that could have adverse effects. So it's a chicken and egg negative spiral and a chicken and egg positive reinforcement. I want to believe, therefore I'm going to try this out, see for myself, prove the lie wrong, which then uproots an old belief and establishes a new one. It's a whole new way of seeing the world. Because again, this is a miracle. Our belief structures are how we see the world. So how do you want to see the world? And these other ones have been embedded so deeply that we don't even question them. All I'm asking is that you question your belief. See how malleable it is. See how much trouble it's been causing you. And start to take steps rather than just taping up an affirmation that's just stating the opposite. Trying to repeat and convince yourself of something you aren't even believing in the first place, and where that's even coming from. But the truth that you need energy. And the new belief that you don't have to get it from food. And in this course, I'm going to teach you, offer you, provide you with multiple ways to harvest that energy, that abundance, more directly from the source itself. And in and of themselves, they're fun. It's sort of like if we were doing this course from a food-based perspective, or like some of these diet and nutrition gurus that teach you how to cook. Throw in the spices and how to make it taste better. That's not so different. So again, this is immensely fun and enjoyable and enriching and flavorful, just not in the same way. So don't think that this is going to be deficiency. Don't think that this is going to be all sullen and somber and sad. It's actually the opposite. You'll start to see and feel, as I have, that actually third-dimensional food makes you feel heavier and denser. And yes, periodic feasting, periodic eating does activate those endorphins, those taste buds, those feel-goods, that festive quality with other people who you're eating and feasting with, but in a much purer way. Our sensitivities even to taste, to eating, how mindlessly we eat while we're watching TV and doing all kinds of other things. Just shoving it down, shoving it down, shoving it down. There's a way of mindfully eating, mindfully enjoying that's not austere and rigid, but a way that you can enjoy it more. We've been numbed out and dulled down. As I said, I enjoy my days of eating and feasting much more than I ever did, for many different reasons. One of the main reasons is because I'm not a slave to food anymore. I get to choose. I get to freely choose. That's empowering. Not a slave to hunger anymore. So it'll be like teaching you how to cook, teaching you how to fish, teaching you how to harvest energy. Through yoga, these are the methods that we'll be working on. Yoga, meditation, light body activation, connecting with the earth, sun gazing, pranayama or breath work, and then finally, the next graduated stage beyond that is not even needing those. So consider this. The source of all life, which again, as I said at the beginning, is not other than, not separate from your own source awareness. Because you are the light that gives light to the world. Nothing can exist without being fully supported by that source. Therefore, nothing is separate from the source. However, there are degrees of vibration, vitality, obstacles, and blockages to optimize the conscious connection to the source. So this computer is connected to the source. The chair that the computer is sitting on is connected to the source. This fireplace is connected to the source. My wedding ring is connected to the source. To use the realm that we're talking in, rotten food is also connected to the source. However, for full, optimal life, vitality, energy, obstacles that relatively prevent your full-on conscious connection to the source must be eliminated. So there are a lot of very profound, kind of non-dually based spiritual paths and traditions, Jnana Yoga being one of them, Advaita Vedanta being one of them, Zen, I believe at least, being one of them, that just sees directly oneness with Source, oneness with all things. The Godhead, if you will, sees it directly in kind of a mentally intuitive. And when I say it that way, the word gnosis or knowledge or jnana is in the ballpark. So not the monkey mind, low-level, ego-based, analytical frontal lobe mind that often get us in trouble. not the demonized mind, but the intuitive mind, the higher mind that all the traditions have, can see directly oneness. But a lot of those traditions don't require that the physical body is included in that the lower mental body is included in that the emotional body is included in that the energetic body is included in that. And that's okay. But that's what this path is. That's really what the yogic path in general is, and the integral plus path is. To bring it all on board, to upgrade all of it. It's even what the ascension path is. But unfortunately, the ascension path itself has been kind of confiscated by the ego and not utilized and understood appropriately through its New Age lens and interpretation. So, from food in the third dimensional way to these more close to the source but still intermediary. That's important. They're still like food, ingesting and digesting. You're still ingesting and digesting and processing and utilizing in a different, more interior, more close to source way through yoga, meditation, light body, connection to the earth, sun gazing, pranayama, breath work. There's still a vehicle transporting or awakening energy, albeit closer to the source, but still you're not fully in all of your capacities and bodies one with the source. Mentally, you might understand it. You might even be enlightened in your oneness with source. And still eating third dimensional food. Again, totally fine. But on this path with me, we're bringing them all on board. An embodied oneness with source. Energetic oneness with source. Because, for example, rotten food or swampland or something else that might have a low vibe or like a decaying vibe, for its very existence in the manifest world, it is fully one with source. But there are degrees separated from the full-on oneness with source, or there might be blockages that prevent the life-full abundance and connection and oneness with source. Do you see what I'm saying? So even a 600-pound human, even the fat-laughing Buddha, is one with source. But there might be degrees of filtering. To be able to fully sustain in a vibrant, life-giving way in your body without needing anything to mediate between third dimensional food or these other practices. So this is where my past life experience, my perspective, takes it even a step beyond what a lot of breatharians or sun gazers or whatever prana eaters take it these days. Because often, this is one reason I don't like the word breatharianism, it's because it's not just about breath work and it's not just about pranayama. I'll tell people I'm a breatharian because don't know what else to say for now. And it's not because I'm going out parading and talking about it. It's because they're offering me food or they're asking me what kind of diet I follow, and I have to respond. And they say, oh, you do a lot of breath work. Oh, you eat prana all day. For a while, I did supplement on my days of fasting to keep my energy levels elevated with more yoga, more meditation, more pranayama, sun gazing every day, connecting to the earth every day, and light body activation. But guess what? If you're relying on those things to the degree with which you are, even though they are beautiful and positive and healthy and enjoyable in and of themselves, if you're relying on them for energy, you're a slave to them as well. But it's an important first step. Eventually, however, through the full-on deconstruction process, through removing all obstacles between you and God. Now, that's not the same as saying someone, oh, well, I'm already one with God, so I don't need yoga. Meanwhile, all their koshas, all their layers, all their body, mind, persona, energy, emotions, etc. are definitely not online and consciously plugged in. That's kind of a step in the wrong direction. You have to first, unless it's just spontaneously awakens, which is fine, but rare, you have to first graduate from food to these other intermediary practices closer to source. Because again, think about it. Source is what gives life to the sun, is what gives life to the plants, is what gives life to the animals. And that's one of the arguments that vegans make. And we can get into these conversations, vegan, paleo, keto, yada yada, later. Because I got some qualms with all of them. That the reason they eat plants, or the reason they eat living plants, is because it's closer to the source and not getting it through the animal that ate the plant. So, there's even a hole in that argument that I've heard in the paleo world, that there's nutrients that you get from animal products that you can't get just from plants. But also, we're not going to concern ourselves so much with that whole argument. We're going to a different place altogether anyway. Because whether vegan, whether raw food, whether paleo, whether keto, whether Ayurveda, whether blood type diet, whether whatever it is that you do, it's all still in this other paradigm. I'll refer to it. I have some knowledge and experience with it, but that's not where we're going to get caught up arguing. We'll let them keep arguing about that. The details, the facts over there. So, first, getting your energy more closely from the source. Awakening the source more fully in you, not only from a higher knowledge, cognition, but also embodied on every layer, removing obstacles, harvesting energy from a more abundant place that doesn't run out. And you could stay there with those practices. But then eventually, where I and I'd say only a very few others, even though I'm not saying that arrogantly, I'm saying that just objectively, because I've only heard of one other guy on YouTube plus the ancients yogis and monks, to have graduated from the need for food or water without needing these intermediary practices, just direct communion with the source. And the result being, and this is a key detail, the result being more life, more vitality, more happiness, more fulfillment, more peace, more groundedness, more presence, rather than depletion, becoming emaciated, lethargy, density, shriveling up, wasting away. Lethargy. So eventually there's a direct one-to-one communion. Literally limitless abundance. Interior and exterior. And everything awakening interiorly. Because even doing practices take time, even though they're accessible anywhere, and even though they're very enjoyable. I'd rather do yoga, light body, meditation, pranayama, sun gazing, and lying on the earth than having a cheeseburger in and of itself. Or even than having a delicious organic meal. In any case, these are my opinions. So I'm also not downplaying those, because as far as hobbies go, that's what I love to do. Those practices. But what I'm saying is I have graduated from the need even for those, and you can too if you want. But as I said in the intro invite video, you can take it to whatever extreme you want for whatever reason you want. And just because you have a desire to take it to the extreme doesn't necessarily mean you will, if, again, it's coming from an ego place. But also life will pick up on it and won't allow you to go there to be able to graduate to those higher levels until you're ready. If you're doing it for the wrong reason, there will be karmic repercussions. But that's okay. It's a part of learning. It's a part of life. It's a part of the journey. So stay tuned. Thanks for being on the ride with me. In upcoming videos, we'll be diving more into these practices and more supportive conceptual material to help with this massaging out of outdated, outmoded beliefs and paradigms. You're in for an amazing experience. Not only for you individually, but the ripple effects for the collective during a time such as this right now. Welcome. Namaste.